It's the Andy Thompson Show on ESPN 97.7.
Coming in for the Dixie High Coaches Show. We jump into the Sport Hole with Lawrence, brought to you by Ideal Home and Auto Pay. Check out Ideal, their home store at 4096 South River Drive. And don't forget about their auto paint store on Tabernacle. Let's go, Larry.
The Sport Hole.
Sports.
Skeeter Beaters on the Andy Thompson Show.
That is a rocket heading toward the pavilion. Shohei is on one.
Let's go, Larry. Sambo, what do you got, buddy? Bring it on.
Sport Hole, weekend's over. What's your Skeeter Beater for tonight, my friend?
All right, we've got the Mariners. We've got the Dodgers. At Chavez Ravine, it's Brian Wu versus Gavin Stone. Stone's pitching for the Dodgers. Wu is pitching for the Mariners. Wu is 5-1 with a 2.06 ERA. Even though Dodgers are 73-52, 38-22 at home. Take the Mariners. Plus 115, Larry. And the under. Parlay it with the under 8.5. These are going to be some of our last baseball Skeeter Beaters, Larry, with football season right around the corner. Take Brandon Wu, who's having a heck of a season for the Mariners. 56 Ks to 7 walks this season. Let's go to Katie Rosen for our first hour look at the National News Desk. Katie.
Thanks, guys. This show stinks from the Sport Hole National News Center on Bluff Street. I'm Katie Rosen. The Washington Commanders have officially named rookie quarterback Javen Daniels starting quarterback. Team trainers are giving him 2 to 3 weeks to live. Tua Tagovailoa has said that Coach Brian Flores had a horrible coaching style that was really negative. Here's some audio. Wham! 4 Ohio State players have been named to the AP preseason All-America first team and put on the cover of the Columbus, Ohio magazine Richest People Under 21 Years Old. Today's Sport Hole Man in Columbus.
Oh, yeah, we get it. Today's
Sport Hole National News is brought to you by Lawrence's mom. From the Sport Hole National News Center on Bluff Street, I'm Katie Rosen.
Thank you, Katie.
The Sport Hole.
Sports.
2-minute drill.
1-0 delivery. Hammered down the line in right field, and it is fair and slides into third for an RBI triple.
Presented by Ideal Home and Auto Paint.
All right, Sambo, bring it on, buddy. What do you got? Happy Monday, by the way.
Skeeter Beater. What was your takeaway for Friday night Region 9 football?
I've never seen it. Never seen Region 9 go 0-7. Probably any week in the pre-region schedule, let alone the first week. Let's go through it, Larry. Manti beat Pineview 58-42 in Manti. That's 100 total points, 791 total pass yards, 12 passing touchdowns. Brock Harris had 3 TDs. He had 80-something receiving yards on the game. Kyle Richardson had 4.3 yards per carry for Pineview, 85 yards on 20 carries. Biggest concern for Pineview is probably their defense. The offense is obviously not the problem after putting up record high numbers. Now for Pineview, it's not record because they, yards, touchdowns, points, their score records are way up there. But to have your first time starting as a varsity quarterback, Levi Shaw, have 6 touchdowns in week 1 is tremendous for Coach Boyer and the OC Todd Shaw in putting up points. And Pineview, that's kind of where they've been when they've been successful over the past 20 years. It has been throwing the ball, throw it 60 times a game, put up huge numbers. The biggest challenge after week 1, Larry, obviously the defense, because the other team put up even more points, 58 points. That kid threw for 6 touchdowns and I think no picks for Manti, and Pineview goes down 58-42. They've got Canyon View next week. But before we move on, Larry, the Richardson kid ran the ball really, really well. From the film I've seen in that game and obviously his stats, that was one of my questions coming in was how good is the run game going to be to complement throwing to Brock Harris a bunch? We can move on now. Desert Hills goes down on the road 25-23 to Faith Lutheran. Garrett Grondel, 15 of 21, super efficient, 184 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Titan Mason held to just 59 yards, but he did have 2 touchdowns. Trey Horton led the Thunder with 3 receptions and 45 yards. Bo Meredith led him on defense with 9 tackles. Biggest concern for Desert Hills, gave up 9 tackles for a loss with 3 sacks. That was shocking to me based on the stats. This was a pretty evenly matched game where Desert Hills scored late in the fourth quarter to make it a 2-point game, just couldn't finish the deal. Faith Lutheran was probably about as good as we thought they were, maybe a little bit better, Larry, based on what we knew about them last year, and they knock off D Hills by 2. But Desert Hills giving up a bunch of tackles behind the line of scrimmage, probably the biggest concern for them going into week 2 against Lehigh, who beat Davis 38-13 or something like that.
Yes.
One of the best programs in the state coming down on Friday to play Desert Hills. All right. Stansbury 13, Snow Canyon 9. Stansbury only threw for 84 yards on 7 completions. They didn't run for a ton either. So Snow Canyon's defense was tremendous up until the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter where Stansbury had a big pass and they scored. So Coach Esplin's got to be thrilled with his defensive effort, especially with a bunch of new guys on defense. Offense, probably the biggest concern right now. Both running and passing. After week 1 against a tough Stansbury team, they've got Manti this week at home. Right, Larry?
Yes.
Is that Snow Canyon?
Yes.
Mountain Crest 35, Hurricane 20. Good news for Hurricane. Last year it was 35-0. He scored 20 more points this year. You had some big pass plays down the field. Dylan Gabriel scored twice running the football. You forced 2 interceptions on defense, and the crowd was pumped up. I was watching the film of this game. I was at the Dixie-Springville game. H-Town was rocking during those big-time plays. So that was cool to see. Mountain Crest is a good program in 4A, and you battled them, and reports were from H-Town. There was some questionable calls down the stretch that they were on the short end of the stick of. So I'll give Hurricane a semi-moral victory for playing Mountain Crest 20 points closer than they did last year in Coach Cowan's first game there. They don't want to hear that crap. They don't want to hear about moral victories, but I'm going to give it to them anyway, right, Larry?
Yes.
All right. What do you got? Morgan beats Crimson 41-13. This was the biggest shocker of the night. I remember seeing the score at halftime 20-0 and not believing my eyes. I could not believe it. I know that Crimson is replacing 19 guys, and maybe we underappreciated how difficult that's going to be going into this season, especially when you start the year against a team like Morgan, who is good every year and challenges for 3A championships and super disciplined and well coached. And man, McCord Christiansen, the Stars, the 3 returning starters they had back, Crimson Cliffs, McCord Christiansen goes for 108 yards and a touchdown on 22 carries. Malachi Lofa posts 6 receptions, 95 yards and a score. And McKay Wright on defense, 14 tackles. Biggest concern, probably the defense, but the defense didn't get gouged by Morgan. 171 yards they gave up through the air, just over 100 on the ground. So it wasn't like they gave up 500 yards of total offense to Morgan. They gave up a return touchdown in special teams. So that's always something that sucks. But that was probably one of the most surprising scores of the week, not only in Region 9, but all of 4A to me. So, but like we were talking about at the beginning of the show, it's week 1, young team, you learn. It's probably better to lose to some tough teams in the pre-region schedule because you're humble and you learn and you got some feistiness and a chip on your shoulder. That's hard to have when you come in as defending champions. And I'm not just talking about Crimson. I'm talking about all of Region 9 because everybody lost. All right, Larry. Springville 41, Dixie 12. This was the game I was at. Springville came out and looked like Springville. They had like 7 guys who were the same guy. They were all like 6 foot, 210-pound running back / linebackers who could run you over, run past you, hit you hard on defense. It's like playing Wisconsin. Like I always say, Springville's big, strong. Their defensive line, I don't know how you move the guy in the middle, the nose guard. That was tough. They found success running around the edges a little bit, especially in the first half with Rand Sawyer. Rand had an amazing touchdown, first drive of the game. Great throw by Wyatt Truman. Rand had to lay out for it, and he just made an amazing catch. That was their first touchdown. That they didn't score again until the last couple of minutes of the fourth quarter when Deacon Virgin came in and found Dante Ochoa for a touchdown. Takeaways from that game, I thought Wyatt Truman, even though he was like 10 of 20 roughly for 100 yards, he made some really good throws down the field. We'll talk with Coach Monkers about his game overall against Springville. Springville was just so tough to stop on defense with the run game. But the first half, I thought Dixie really acquitted themselves well defensively. It could have been going into the lock. I was thinking it was going to be maybe a one-possession game. Springville got a couple interceptions and was able to convert right before halftime. But Dixie battled them, for a half really well. I thought it was almost going to be 7-6 going into the locker room before Springville got a turnover and was able to score. So that was tough. I thought Kason Glover was a really good blocker on the edges as a receiver. I know how important that is for Coach Monkers, especially when they run the jet sweep. Grover had a couple of catches too, but he was a really good committed blocker as a wide receiver. Tano Anzalone made some good catches and some good plays on defense as well. The biggest concern for Dixie after week 1 is probably firepower on offense besides Rand. So who's going to step up and average 5 catches for 60 yards this year now that Rand Sawyer's at running back? And I know it's going to be by committee and you're going to have several guys, but who's going to be kind of the guy to step up on a 3rd and 10? They always have that guy going back to Brett Barbin and guys before him who could just 3rd and 10, we're going to run a comeback at the sticks and we're going to convert 80% of the time in the biggest moments. Who's going to be that guy for Dixie? And it might be Kason Grover. It might be Tano Anzalone. I thought Jason Malufalalu came in he's just a sophomore. He came in when Springville had their second string guys in. He ran like a madman. He looked really good. Dobler ran hard all night. For Dixie, there was just nowhere really to go in between the box. And the biggest plays were Sawyer either catching passes or kind of kicking it outside. So Dixie goes down 41-12. Good news for Dixie fans, nothing new. You play Springville every year is kind of we're going to go against a really tough 5A opponent who's going to be much bigger than us, and we're going to duke it out. And we're going to go duke it out against Mountain Ridge next week. And by the time we get to region, we're going to be toned up and can take a punch and have gotten back up, and we're going to be able to compete for a region championship. And I think that's going to be the same this year. Richfield 42, Cedar 25. Crew Giles continues to ball this year. He had a couple of touchdowns from Everett Kelling. Scored a lot more than last year. That's the positive. Biggest concern, probably giving up big plays on defense. Gave up a 65-yarder and a 45-yard touchdown to Richfield. But kind of like Hurricane. Same opponent week 1. You played a lot better, at least on one side of the ball for Cedar with 25 points on offense. So tough, maybe a historic night, Friday night for Region 9. I know not winning a game, but on to Cincinnati, like we said before, right, Larry?
Yes.
On to week 2.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes.
All right.
What up, buddy?
You're not very bright, are you?
Andy versus Randy.
As we do every Monday, we welcome in my twin brother, Randy, to give us his constructive thoughts and compliments about our show. What's going on, Randy?
What up, buddy?
How's it going, man?
It's Going good, my friend. Thanks for taking my call, as always. Who's your Heisman this year? I didn't see in your little skeeter beaters over the last couple of weeks. Who you got winning the Heisman? Do you like the guy from
where?
Do you like Shadur?
No.
Do you like? Well, Ohio State really doesn't have a guy this year. Do you like Milroe?
Will Howard?
Bama?
I do like Milroe, and I like Bam. I'm rooting for him this year.
Yeah.
I want him to do well.
You know what? I'd actually like to see them do pretty well this year without Saban. With
DeBoer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually rooting for the Tide.
Yeah.
A little bit. Who else?
Ollie Gordon.
Oh, Ollie Gordon. Yeah.
Yeah.
But who's your pick? What about Cam?
Yeah, why not? I mean, yeah. I'd like to see that.
You're not going with Gordon?
No, I like Gordon. She's quarterback.
Yeah, it's always a quarterback.
Got to be a quarterback.
Huh?
Yeah.
What about Jackson Dart?
Fine. Who cares? Yeah, let's go with Dart.
All right, we'll root for Kiffin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
All right.
Appreciate it. All right, see you later.
The Sport Hole.
Sports.
Letter to the Sport Hole. You can write to the Sport Hole at 93776.
Hey, Larry, before we go to the letter, which, by the way, is brought to you by IndyRVSales.com. IndyRVSales.com. The Cox brothers will help finding your dream RV a breeze. IndyRVSales.com, baby. Now I've lost my train of thought. Oh, before we go on to the letter, the character letter, Larry.
Yes.
What was I just going to say? Oh, about Alabama. Yes, I'll be rooting for Kalen DeBoer, even though I think he's an idiot for taking that job. Actually, I'm not rooting for him. I take it back. He's an idiot for taking that job. Here's what I want to say about Bama, though. Alabama opens their season predictably against a cupcake, Western Kentucky, at home. At least it's not an FCS opponent, and Western Kentucky can throw it. They can sling it, right? Then they host South Florida. Fine. And then they go on the road to Camp Randall to play Wisconsin. When is the last time? Well, fairly recently. Let me give kudos to Saban, who scheduled these games, and the AD, because Alabama, for 15 years, never left the SEC footprint on the road in non-conference. They would play a out-of-conference game at a neutral site in, like, Atlanta or something, but they would never go north to Big Ten country. They would never go anywhere west. But over the last 3 years, they went to Texas and played in Austin, and they're going to Wisconsin this year. Now, they're going to kill Wisconsin. It's not the most intimidating team to go try to beat, but you at least got to go on the road, Bama. So I appreciate that. Good for Roll Tide, buddy, right?
Yes.
And I do like DeBoer. I just think he should have stayed at Washington and gone and tried to win the Big Ten and stuff, right?
Yes.
Why go to a place where you got the biggest legend in the history of the sport? The maniac fans in Tuscaloosa are never going to be satisfied. You got to win a championship by year 2 or you're canned. Quality of life, Larry, right?
Yes.
Just stay in Washington. They'll be happy. You can be there for 30 years. You're going to get fired from Alabama in 2 years. And then you're going to have to go to a group of 5 school or maybe a low-level Power 4 team. Okay? Have you not seen the pattern, DeBoer? All right. Sorry about that. What do we got? Oh, we got a character letter. All right. This is from Morgan. Dear Sport Hole, which state is the best high school football state per capita in the country? Blah, 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 blah. You can go by college recruit. This kind of goes on and on and on. But I'm going to do it based on NFL players. Because we've done this before last year, right?
Yes.
So the top football states in the country who produced the most NFL players per capita, Larry. Are you ready? Do you want to guess?
No.
Okay, number one is Georgia. One NFL player per 71,000 people. Georgia has a population of 10 million, but we're equalizing it doing the per capita thing, right?
Yes.
All right, number two. Do you have a guess?
No.
Louisiana. So far, we're in the South and kind of the deep South, right?
Yes.
Number three. Alabama. So Louisiana was 1 in 72,000. Alabama is 1 in 83,000. Number four. Mississippi. That's 1 in 92,000. Number five, Florida, 1 in 121,000. And number six, Utah, 1 in 125,000 per capita. They've got the sixth most NFL players in the league. And this was fall of 2023. So fall of 2024, this would even be more, right? We don't have the final 53-man rosters yet, but. And people will say the reason this is because Utah has, a competitive focus and the community and, Kyle Whittingham, who's a great developer of talent. He takes in these 2 3-star kids, gets them into the NFL better than anyone in the country, which is true. And they'll say other stuff, but the number one reason is because of the Polynesian talent in Utah that other states in the West don't have. So if you compare Utah to even Arizona and Colorado, who have big urban city centers and population, Utah dwarfs them in NFL players out of the state of Utah. Wyoming, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, not even close. Utah even outdoes Oregon and Washington in the per capita rankings, which is crazy. So, yes, I agree that it does have to do with the culture and how competitive it is and all this stuff. But I would also just say having a dense population of Polynesian talent in Utah, that there's some in California, there's obviously some in the islands and Hawaii, but Utah in the West, more than Washington, more than Oregon, more than anybody else in the Midwest or out East. That's your number one reason. Thank you for the character question, Morgan.
The Sport Hole.
Sports. Kasuga going over the top. Nakua into the end zone for the touchdown.
Sport Hole, do you agree with the UHSAA transfer rules?
Well, the adjustment to the transfer rules that just got approved like a couple weeks ago, right, is that if you choose to transfer from one school to the next, you've got to sit out, 50% of the next season. If you transfer again, you've got to sit out a whole season. Now, this doesn't include full family moves. If it's a full family move, then you can play right away. There's also a new thing with international players. So what the UHSAA board is trying to do is say, look, these international schools that go and recruit international players, for example, like Wasatch Academy or like Leighton Christian or some others, I think those are the two big ones. You can play a regular season, but you can't compete. I mean, Wasatch Academy doesn't play in the state tournament. That's ridiculous. But Leighton Christian does. They're not going to be able to anymore under this new deal. The kids with F1 visas who come here to play a sport and to go to school for their whole high school career, who are recruited, and that's kind of the implication is that they are indeed recruited to come and play. They're not eligible to win a state championship. They can play an independent schedule like Wasatch. They can go play in these regional tournaments. They can play, in state schools who are geographically close to them. But when the tournament comes around, they're going to be ineligible to play that. And this is what a lot of 4A people were saying should happen to Leighton Christian. which I'm totally fine with. The fact that Layton Christian won the 1A championship, then they won the 2A championship, then they won the 3A, and they kept moving them up. It's so ridiculous that they started at 1A, by the way. And I would say the private schools, especially if you're kicking trash, regardless of what your enrollment is, you're a private school. You can go out and get people from all over the country to come there. You don't live by the same rules as the public schools. You should be competing at the highest level. Then if you start to win that, dominate that, then you've got to be like, look, this is a huge advantage you have over these public schools, which are 99% of the schools. So we got to figure this out. This is something that big states like California and Illinois deal with on a 10x level. There's so many private schools, Nevada, and these other schools dominate, but they can play in their own division. You gotta pair them with other private schools for it to be fair, right, Larry?
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's incumbent upon the UHSAA to make it restrictive enough, kind of like the NCAA used to do, where they wanted to limit these powerhouses just getting like Bama or Georgia in high school. It's Corner Canyon or whoever else, Skyridge or all those Lehigh schools who are getting a bunch of transfers. And I think the UHSAA used to be a little bit more loosey-goosey. Now they're tightening it up, and now they're tightening it up, and now they're tightening it up even more in different aspects. And I think that's good. If a kid's family wants to literally move for the kid's high school football career and says, look, I got to get to Corner Canyon if I want my kid to play in the Big 12 or the SEC, we're willing to do a full family move. You can do nothing to prevent that. That's commitment. I mean, they're going to move. That's going to be legal forever. But the other stuff, just trying to transfer and not moving, if you don't get the waiver, then you're going to have to sit out 50% of your team's games or something like that, right?
Yes.
So I can dig it. That's fine.
The Sport Hole.
Sports.
To put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. Like, you are accurate, you are the best whatever, you are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other?
All right, that's Tua Tagovailoa on the Dan Le Batard Show talking about Brian Flores and how negative Flores was in coaching him. We're going to save that topic for second hour. Right, Larry? Let's
yes.
we got to move here. Let's wrap it up with the Gus Award. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this week's Gus Johnson Award goes to...
Unlikely that BC puts any points on the board. That hits the scoreboard. It goes bouncing down to 35. Flintoff hammered that right into the Jumbotron here at BC Place.
The kick hit the scoreboard, which is pretty odd. We're going to redo everything. We'll redo the play. We'll reset the clock to 2:44 with a new 20-second clock. It's just a redo.
Ben Mead, you're just saying what we're all thinking.
I love it. That's great.
All right, that was from the Canadian Football League, and really the award goes to the ref, the Canadian ref, who was funny there. All right, he gets $10 to Poo Poo Chicken Island Grinds here in Southern Utah. All right, Larry, quick break, back with the Coach Moncker's Coachy Show right here on your local sports leader. Thanks for being with us.